All right, we are live. So welcome back to Dapp University. So today is a major day for the entire crypto space because Ethereum is now officially running on proof of stake. Okay, so we had the historic Ethereum Merge happen within the last, let's see here, about 6 hours. Okay, so I'm trying to make this time zone friendly here. If you're watching this inside the United States, this happened last night while probably many of you were sleeping. If you're in Europe or Asia, you might have been awake. Maybe not in Europe, but definitely if you're over in Asia or other parts of the world, you might have seen this live. But this is major. So I'm going to talk about this in this video today. It was very smooth, about as smooth as on as it could have gone, and what this means for the future. We're going to look at some of the ETH price and maybe some of the impacts on the merge. Looks like we're starting to see a little bit of a sell-off in the ETH market right now. I'll kind of weigh in on that. We're going to answer some of your questions from the live chat here and a whole lot more. So if you're new around here, hey, I'm Gregory, and on this channel, I turn you into a blockchain master. So if that's something that you're interested in, then smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe to this channel. And if you want to learn how to master blockchain step by step, start to finish, then head on over to dappuniversity.com/bootcamp. Get started today. All right, so we got people jumping in the chat here. We've got Kodia, CodeChap, Automatic Beats, Cryptechnology. Let's see here. All right, we're live. Culture Hives. Let's see here. Exodus. Saying that right. Hi. Keith, Jay, Ardall, Nasty Nate. So, all right, let's jump into this. So the Ethereum Merge has happened. Okay, it went down. I'm just gonna talk like you're watching this in the United States. You're probably all over the world, but I'll just make it easy on me here. So anyways, the Ethereum Merge is done. It happened, I said last night around, let's see, this was about close to 2 a.m. Central Time. It was about 6:45, I think is what it was. UTC time. I've got the actual timestamp pull up here and do the conversion. I think I'm getting that right. So, anyways, this is the most anticipated upgrade in all of Ethereum's history, okay? It's one of the biggest events in all of crypto's history, okay, because we successfully just took 2 different blockchains, okay, essentially, with billions of dollars on both of them and just merged them together, and it was about as seamless as it could have possibly been, okay? I've been saying for quite some time now that I had a high degree of confidence that the merge would be successful. There'd be no showstoppers. There'd be no massive deal breakers. I did say that I anticipated some problems because there's always going to be problems when you're talking about something as massive of a technical feat as this, because I'm a software developer. I've been doing this for a long time. I just know that complicated things are complicated and there's always side effects. However, we have seen a few side effects, but honestly, it's less side effects than I anticipated. And honestly, I think there's many people who were pretty surprised at how smooth the transition for the merge went. Okay, so let's kind of dig into some of that. So, anyways, again, recap what the merge is. We're switching out the engine to the car that drives Ethereum. It's consensus mechanism, which is proof of work, which is what Bitcoin uses, switching it over to proof of stake. We've had the beacon chain running for, since 2020, the end of 2020. That's when it went live. People have been depositing their ETH over there in order to run validators that are just doing proof of stake, but nobody can really use the blockchain. But now we've taken all that, engineering and swapped it in to the main Ethereum chain. So if you go use Ethereum today, if you make a transaction, then you're going to be transacting on the new proof of stake Ethereum. This is this is basically Ethereum 2.0 that people have been talking about for a very long time, at least a step forward in that roadmap. And again, they don't really call it Ethereum 2.0 anymore. It's just called Ethereum, and we have all the items on the roadmap for development. We'll talk about what's next after the merge, because some people are saying like, hey, there's nothing to look forward to. That's not true. There's actually a lot of stuff on Ethereum's roadmap after the merge. This has just been one of the biggest items because it's been in development for such a long time. And it's massive because so many people said it would never arrive. Well, it's here, and so many people try to fade it, saying like, "Hey, what if this doesn't work?" And it has definitely worked. So, what does that mean? Miners are gone, stakers are here. We have new incentives. We are now burning, we've been burning ETH whenever transactions are created, but now the issuance for ETH has dropped significantly, okay, significantly. So we've also reduced the amount of energy consumption with ETH, all right? Actually starting to see some stats pulled up here. Let's look at some of those things. Again, so, one of the things that I've been so excited about with the merge is that, essentially it's going to reduce the supply of Ether on large periods, on large time frames, okay? So, previously, we were burning ETH whenever new transactions are created. We already had that system in place. But, additionally, we were, creating new ETH by the blockchain. So basically, if you're running a node, you have to get incentivized to do that. So you get incentivized two ways. Well, first of all, you get paid to do that if you're a miner, okay? And people, like, when they pay transaction fees, part of those fees get sent to you. Part of it gets burnt, but then also the blockchain creates a new cryptocurrency to pay you. And now that we are switched to proof of stake, the same system is basically in place, but now the amount of cryptocurrency created by the blockchain is like way less. Okay, it's the triple halving that everybody's talking about. ETH issuance, the new ETH that's created by the blockchain, is dropped by about 90%, or got cut in half 3 times, from about 4% a year down to 2%, down 2% to 1%, 1% down to 0.5%. That's the triple halving. Okay, and so you can see the effect of that here. The whole idea is the more the blockchain gets used, the more we burn, and the more that offsets the amount of ETH issued, okay? And so what's pretty cool on this website, ultrasound.money, you can basically see that whenever we're over 15 Gwei on the network, that's when basically we are in deflationary times. And so we've been below 15 Gwei for large periods of time recently because the space has been so quiet. But don't forget, like, when things were crazy, and you may not remember this, but when things were crazy during 2021, we were like 150 Gwei. You know what I mean? We're at 10x that amount. So if we go through these dead periods again, all it takes is a week of really insane activity to make up for all of the slow times. Because if 15 Gwei is your threshold and you stay at 10 Gwei, that's just a 5 Gwei deficit. You could sustain that for months and then completely wipe away all of that issuance with 1 week of burning on a really frothy activity. Okay, so that's the nature of 10x growth. So it has an exponential effect like that. So anyways, you can. What's cool about this feature is you can see the threshold. Basically, whenever Ethereum Merge, they're actually graphing out the total supply of Ether. So this 120 million figure, 120,500,000. You can watch my camera. Let me try to change the light here. Maybe that'll help. Not sure why it's doing that. Come on. Well, I'll just talk through it. Hopefully it'll catch back up with me here. But you can see, yeah, there we go. You can see that that supply started going down, all right? And then basically the network, like the activity started kind of going down a little bit, and then now it's starting to go up, and then it hit a notch again, and now it started getting burnt quite a bit because the fees are kicking in. So anyways, you can kind of see that basically since the ETH merge, it has been negative issuance. Like, we have 166 less ETH on the market since the merge went live, and you can actually keep track on this to see if ETH stays like net, deflationary. And if we actually, it would be pretty crazy historic if like this became the peak number. Now, we'll see if that happens. But yeah, so that's the crazy thing about this, is that you could have a theoretical max supply for Ether. We will probably have a max supply at some point. We just don't know sort of what's going to happen with the network. So anyways, you can sort of visualize this here, watching the base fees and then the gas market. Again, you can see those some before. You don't really have to simulate the merge anymore, which is kind of funny. They'll probably take that feature off. But now the merge is here. Basically, we're issuing this much ETH per year. We're burning this much on a past 1 day basis. That'd be neutral. But if you look on the past hour, right, that means it's minus 6% inflationary or 6% deflationary. So, it's happening. Like, ETH is now on these time frames, like, we're burning more ETH than we're creating. It's pretty crazy, like, that we're seeing all this play out. Now, let's talk about the short term and the long term, because right now, it definitely looks like, we're seeing a dip in the ETH price. Okay, so I did say, ahead of the merge to expect some volatility. When I woke up and was looking at all the headlines this morning, everybody's saying, ETH is trading flat after the merge. Well, it's because basically people didn't stay up to watch the merge, and now that they're awake, in the United States, now they're gonna sell the news. You know what I mean? So again, some of this could be definitely related to what's going on in the, with the stock market as well. That stock sell-off, again, high correlation because of the broader economy. We had the CPI numbers come out recently that didn't look great to try to track the trajectory of inflation, so there could be some correlation with that as well. But basically, yeah, we are seeing a little bit of a dip here in the ETH price post-merge. Yeah, again, I was saying on the short term, definitely expect some sort of volatility around this, and we start to see some of that now. But again, some of this could be more influenced over the from the stock market, for sure. But I do think that now that the merge has happened, there's going to be less people in a short-term time frame, really trying to, chase a narrative. I'll put it that way. So anyways, let's talk about the long term though, because that's what I'm most excited about in terms of actual Ethereum price, is the impact of that fee burning mechanism with the negative issuance over time. Now, and also because of, let me see if I can turn this light on. Maybe that'll help. Not just the fee burning, but also more reasons why you want to hold ETH in the first place. Because now it's proof of stake. Now we have basically we have validators who are locking their cryptocurrency up, and that's going to attract more people to do that. All right, particularly people with large amounts of money, particularly institutions, to have some sort of native yield on the network and a very blue chip asset and network like Ethereum, which has a high probability of long-term price appreciation in terms of the principle itself. But then also, you're going to get yield on top of that. So a native yield, and yield that's not going to go away. Okay, like other DeFi apps, and yield that's highly secure in terms of how you're depositing your funds compared to like a sketchy smart contract that's just deployed onto some, blockchain that people are trying to chase gains on for, short periods of time. So that's huge. So it's got supply and demand based effects that, in my opinion, mathematically will positively impact the price. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen like tomorrow. Okay. Just because we have 169 less ETH on the market doesn't mean that like tomorrow ETH price is going to rocket to like $2,500 or something like that. I think it could take time to see these types of things play out. But one other factor is like we're not going to have all the ETH, like all the ETH that's locked up in validators is still locked up in validators. Okay, all the new ETH that's getting issued right now, okay, you can't withdraw it. Like we don't have withdrawals enabled from proof of stake yet. So that's another big factor right now. It's going to be many months before that is actually, before that's actually live. So even if you see these numbers like minus 171 ETH has been issued since the merge, well, that's true, but even less but the circulating supply of ETH is actually shrinking by much more than that. Okay, so if we just look at the past, 1 day, let's see if it'll tell me how much ETH has been burned in that time frame. Man, I'm really trying to fix this camera. I don't know why it keeps doing that on me. It won't tell me how much ETH has been burned on that time frame. But anyways, whatever amount of ETH that's been burned, it's that. Like you don't even factor in the issuance because that issuance is not liquid. It's locked into validators and can't be withdrawal until many months later. So let's talk about sort of the next items on the roadmap post-merge, because that's one thing. So the first major thing is going to be that post-merge cleanup period where they kind of finalize everything that's happened here. And then they will essentially enable withdrawals and a few other things like that, okay? Now, we don't exactly know when that's going to go live, okay? Sorry, I'm going to pull up a tweet here. I'm just going to find it. We don't exactly know when that's going to go live, okay? But that will be the next major item on the Ethereum roadmap. So after that, let's look at some other big items on the roadmap. I'll pull this article here. I'll put a link to this down in the description below. It's a pretty good article that goes over some of these things. So after the merge, what comes next? Again, that post-merge cleanup period is the first major thing. Basically, we've got the surge. That's the next big thing, which basically has got to do with sharding, which I talked about this on my live streams. I have to pronounce that very carefully because people mishear it all the time. But basically, it's going to split the entire network up into smaller pieces known as shards. So again, if you are a developer, you might have experienced this. If you have like database sharding, whenever you have a large data set, you might have to do that. And then you break up your database into, smaller groupings of logical concerns, and then they all kind of like are orchestrated from the same sort of data warehouse that you can query from. So it's the same type of thing with the blockchain. As the blockchain gets bigger, you can speed it up by breaking it up into smaller shards. So that's going to be one of the next things, the next major item. What's the ETA on that? Well, the official Ethereum Foundation site, it says the ETA is 2023. Okay, so hopefully that's earlier in 2023 than later. But I'll set our expectations for, maybe sometime in 2023. So the Verge is after this. That's going to be with Verkle trees. Okay, it's going to help with scalability as well. Okay, so then the purge and the splurge. All right, so basically this is gonna help reduce historical data. Basically the idea that the amount of data that's required to maintain the entire chain is quite big, and that can help essentially prune some of that state to help with scaling as well. So, we're now officially over halfway complete on the Ethereum roadmap for the final version. And yeah, this is a huge milestone. So another big thing to think about is, with the merge, there's another big factor, the environmental impact, especially when it comes to how people talk about crypto and blockchain and criticize it. So essentially, we saw this tweet from Vitalik talking about how the merge will reduce world electricity consumption by 0.2%. So even if that's close to true, like that's a big talking point that sort of is a quick pushback against everybody who like hates on crypto for being like bad for the environment. Okay, I know there's all kinds of ways you could debate that issue, right? I'm not gonna get off in the weeds and all that, but basically now that ETH is proof of stake, you can essentially just sidestep all of that. Okay, with a pretty simple step. So yeah, that's a big impact from the merge as well. Let's look at a couple more things here. So another thing about the merge and how smooth it was, this is pretty insane, is that, the finalization, the network finalization was actually pretty fast. I was talking about this yesterday, like there's some kind of questions on, how long that would take, and could we see a delay in actual finalization? Because when you do the merge, basically you're turning it on, but the finalization actually has to happen in order for the first block to actually be proposed, okay, and then to actually get included on the new chain. And it was very, very, very smooth. It was very, very, very smooth. And again, like yesterday and many weeks before this happening, I was saying like, hey, I expect some problems. I don't expect any deal breakers. But I mean, this was huge, okay? Because I think another big factor here is everybody who's doubted Ethereum's ability to execute and to actually ship meaningful stuff and be credible, in the space, they don't have a lot of ground to stand on, especially since this was shipped successfully This is a massive technical feat, all right, with hardly any issues, okay? The other thing that's pretty impressive is the participation rate. So if you're talking about all the, the nodes on the network and the clients that run the Ethereum software, collectively together make up that Ethereum virtual machine that executes the smart contracts and runs the network. The participation rate's insanely high. Is like, I think it's over 98%. I don't have the official stat off the top of my head, but I think I saw that number floating around somewhere. And that's it. Yeah, if you don't know, that, like, that's super duper duper high when you're talking about all the nodes in the network actually having to successfully orchestrate an upgrade. Yeah, that's big. So that's another thing, because that was one of the big question marks. It was like, hey, what's the participation rate going to be? All that type of stuff, and it's insanely high. Like there nobody had the expectation that it would be 100%. I'll put it that way. So let's go back and check on the ETH price in the short term. Again, I think we're starting to see a little bit of a dump here, but again, I think we're highly correlated with the stock market in the short term for sure. It's hard to know if this is just total sell the news event after the ETH merge, if we're really just responding to what's happening, over in traditional finance. So I'm also saying some people talk about how the merge is really just a non-event, okay? And with Ethereum, especially people are just kind of waiting for it to just make ETH like rocket off into infinity in terms of the crypto price, or for the actual experience of people using Ethereum to completely change. So like, here's the thing, like in one respect, it is kind of a non-event in terms of what happens to Ethereum. Like most people who are using Ethereum really aren't going to notice the difference. And so that's sort of people like, hey, well, why does that matter? Like that's kind of dumb to get that excited about the merge and proof of stake and all that type of stuff. But you want it to be a non-event. Okay, I'll put it that way. Because really what the goal is for the end user to not experience a noticeable difference, because it'd be like driving a car where you have to swap out the engine like I was talking about before. If the person's driving the car and never lets their foot off the gas pedal, and they were never aware that you're swapping the engine, and it just, continues to keep driving without their awareness, like that's success. Okay. So that's exactly what just happened. But the things that we are excited about, proof of stake, everything that I outlined in this video, the fact that it has native yield, okay, the fact that there are more reasons to hold the asset, the fact that it is, going down in supply ever since the merge happened, and we'll see how that, and I expect it to do that on large time frames. Okay, those are the really exciting things. The energy reduction, also the the ability for Ethereum to ship something like this and continue to execute on its roadmap. So again, it's crazy. Like even up until the merge happened, we're still seeing people talk about the gas fees on Ethereum and the merge fixing all those. And that's another thing that there's going to be a lot of people who are like, hey, what happened? Because I thought ETH was supposed to be cheaper and faster and all that type of stuff. It's one of the biggest complaints about Ethereum. It's too slow, it's too expensive to use. Well, the merge did not fix that. Okay. If you watch this channel for any length of time, of course, you heard me say this a bazillion times, but there's always new people, so I'll repeat this, right? So, that's what layer 2 scaling solutions are for. That's always, not always, but for quite some time now, that's been the long-term, scaling strategy for Ethereum, in addition to sharding and those other things that I talked about, is basically to create this second environment that's built on top of Ethereum, that essentially where you can do all those transactions, and it piggybacks on top of Ethereum for security, finalization, all that type of stuff. You pay the gas fees on those networks in ETH itself. That's how it's different from using a unique blockchain, okay, among other things. So, we're still seeing a significant amount of adoption for layer 2s. Like if you look at stuff like Arbitrum, well, let's actually look at over very long time frames. Okay, actually, let's look at this here. Let's look at like Arbitrum. We're seeing a significant amount of growth in these. Now, some of this has kind of gone down recently. I think one of the reasons for this, I think it's multiple reasons, okay? But I do think the merge actually is a factor in some of this. I think there are some people who are kind of de-risking ahead of the merge, especially with layer 2s, because they're sort of like, hey, I'm not sure how this layer 2 is going to respond after the merge. But there's other stuff like Arbitrum Odyssey was like started and stopped, and then Arbitrum, had some other upgrades, and different apps kind of come in and out of vogue with yield and incentives. They're always gonna be fluctuating, but looking at the bigger trend, is big. Now I know that doesn't look great, but that's also based on what was happening with the markets. I mean, we're still kind of on the tail end of a bull market at this point. We'd already been on the downtrend, but there was still a lot of explosive activity here. The fact that you saw this growth in a bear is pretty good. So this is what you really want to look at, is the ETH value, because this is going to be highly affected by cryptocurrency prices, and that's like what I was saying here before. You saw this in a bull market, but if you look at it like this is my ETH locked, okay? That's a better indicator, and this was basically, I think, when Odyssey was happening, and then it kind of had a false start, but we still continue to see this trend going up. So what's going on with forks? Haven't heard much about miners really complaining either. Yeah, so the ETH proof of work fork, let's just look it up. It's not looking great. It has a spike of $60 and basically right at about the time of the merge, and then has dumped to $17. These are the IOUs, okay? So basically, like, this is just like if you're gonna go trade this on, I don't even know the exchanges that it's listing on. I think it's just Poloniex. Let's see. Now there's a couple places: FTX, Poloniex, Gate.io, Huobi. Most of the volume's been on FTX. No surprise. Let's see here. All right, everybody. Well, again, this is a massive, massive, massive event in Ethereum's history, also all of crypto's history. It's the biggest upgrade to Ethereum since it went live. The merge was super successful, about as smooth as you could possibly ask for, okay? I know a lot of people in the U.S. sort of wish it happened while they were normally awake. Okay, maybe that's the only gripe if you live in the United States. But yeah, the finalization happened really fast. Participation rates super high. Of course, we're seeing some volatility in the ETH price right now, but we're also seeing a dip in the stock market as well. So that could be a big factor of what's going on here. But definitely go check out, monitor the fee burning and the ETH supply. You can go over to ultrasound.money. You can watch this graph right here and track the supply, since the merge happened. And let's see if we actually maintain this as the peak supply. Okay, so 120,521,000. So we got pretty close right here. We'll see if that becomes the biggest it'll ever get. I don't know. We'll see. It'll probably go back up. But anyways, that's all I got for today. As always, smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. That really helps the videos out so the more people can learn about blockchain. And if you're as fast with this technology as I am, you want to get your hands dirty, how can you get started today? You can go to my YouTube homepage. You can find any of those free courses there. They're like Udemy courses, but they're totally free. And if you like those and you want to take the next step, or hey, maybe you want to take a master shortcut entirely, I can show you how to master blockchain step-by-step start to finish over at dappuniversity.com/bootcamp. You'd have to be an expert to get started today. I thought people with zero coding experience become real-world blockchain developers in a matter of months. So that's all I've got. And until next time, thanks for watching Dapp.